Welcome to Legacy Conversations, a channel where we preserve military memories and history.
Hello, Internet. I must tell you, I'm excited today. And I know there's people who laugh at me when I say I'm excited. It's like a saying, you know, what I say all the time. And sometimes when I don't say it, the guest on the other side says something like, "Of course, as ek nou nie exciting nie, my ou, wat's fout jy?" That type of thing. But I really am, because we're speaking to someone very special. When you hear his life story, you're really going to understand. He's called Russel Haikney. He's one of a few people who actually went to the border, went back home to Civvy Street, and then came back in a different format. And that is quite unique. I haven't heard of that before. So, Russell, thank you for contacting me. And I want to say to the rest of you guys, please come and talk to us. Don't think you don't have a story or insignificant or whatever. Don't. That's from Satan. The mere fact that we have so many hundreds of thousands of people, millions now, who want to hear your story shows to me that that's a lie. Come and talk to me. Come and contact me. It's easy. You just write me an email and you will see that I will respond to you. We'll set up a date. It might be a few weeks in the future or somebody else will. But at the end of the day, we will speak. Open invitation. I don't care what unit you come from. Unimportant. So, Russell, may I ask you, how did this start for you? Were you called up like all of us?
Hello, Koos. So lovely to be on your program, and I have been following you for a number of years. Well, since you started, and I really appreciate the opportunity to just share some of my experiences, and that the good Lord and our Supreme Commander has given me the opportunity to reach the age of 65 and spared my life in many unpredictable and bad situations. So I'm very glad to be here, to be able to talk to you, and also to give hope to people that are suffering from alcoholism, the disease of alcoholism, the scourge of alcoholism, and there is a way out, and I will talk about that at the end of my talk. So thank you. Yes, I was born in Benoni in 1959, the 3rd of February 1959, and had a really a good childhood. My father had been orphaned as a 3-year-old, and he went to the railway orphanage because my grandmother could not look after them. She was very poor, so he ended up in the railway orphanage and had a very hard time. So he became a very introvert and a very austere person, a scary guy, very quiet, but didn't drink at all. Gambled a lot eventually, and that was a bad thing. But he wasn't a bad father. He was just very afzonderlijk on his own. My mother was a lovely person. She was she used to take. I remember still going with her to take people to. Old people from the old age home to do shopping, and used to have to carry the bags on my holidays, and it was always a big chore because I wanted to be out doing playing and that sort of thing. So I had to go with the old lady and the old ladies. But that was all for her. She was a wonderful woman. Unfortunately, she died at 47 years old from cancer of the bladder in 1978, and I just turned 18. At 19 at that stage, so that was a big blow to me. My dad passed away in 2001, and funny enough, they both died on the 19th of June, 23 years apart. So that is quite a coincidence. Yes, I grew up in Rhodesia and Benoni. They bought one of the first houses in 1953 in Benoni, and the milling fields were right outside the house, so there were a lot of snakes. Had a couple of experiences with snakes, especially rinkles once that nearly got me, and the garden man, he managed to kill it just just as it was about to strike me. I hadn't even really seen it because it fell off the garage door onto the ground. He happened to be there, so that was lucky. Then I had a number of misfortunate accidents. I used to have to ride to school about 7 kilometers. And coming back from school one day, a bus, the technical school bus, bumped me over and I went under the wheel, and my left leg was trapped between the frame and the handlebar. But luckily it was a big, strong black bike, and it was right up on the frame and bent the pedal and everything. But they managed to extract me out from underneath there. It was really scary because the fan was going above it. It was one of those old blue school buses, and I got out of there. I had a bit of damage to my leg, which was bad. And not long after that, about a year later, I was coming home from scouts. I was a scout, and coming home in the dark one night with a torch in the front here, this big torch with batteries, and it was pouring with rain. And I was riding over about 10 o'clock, and I had gears on the bike, and I rode into the back of the rabbi's vehicle that was parked in the road. And the gear lever of my bike went into my right knee and through the knee, in the kneecap, and did quite a bit of damage there. But I was spared of that. I managed to recover from those, and I was very glad about that. And then, as a youngster, I had a wonderful time. Family. I wasn't in a farming family. My father was an engineer. He worked for Reynolds Crofts, and he was very good. He designed gearboxes and reduction boxes for the mines and that sort of thing. So he as a child, it was really safe. We grew up in a really safe area in the 1960s. The railways worked well. My mother would take me to the train station at Germiston. Was the main junction, big station at Germiston, and then put me on the train into the care of a porter, normally an older colored chap, and they would take you under their wing, put you in your cabin, and then they would come later on with the big leather satchel, open it up, and I can still smell the leather, and all these beautiful crisp sheets with the SAR, SAS on it, put it on the beautiful green bunk, and then sleep all the way to to Bloemfontein, when my uncle would pick me up and take me to the farm near Wepner at Kruispoort, shooting pigeons and doing what all boys, getting up to all sorts of mischief, and herding cattle and sheep and having absolute fun, and then really not wanting to go back to school in the town. Then I went to university. My call-up was in 1970. My first call-up was in 1975. 7542 BG was my call-up to the infantry, but I decided at that stage to go to university to study first. And I went to University of Natal in 1977. And the riots, there'd been, while I was studying, there's lots of riots and shooting going on in Joburg at that time in 1976 in Joburg. And you could watch and hear it from our house. It wasn't that far. Then I went to university, and I studied animal husbandry, or animal science and poultry science, and met a lot of Rhodesian people and chaps that would come down, and the Rhodesian War was really at a very hot stage in 77, 78, 79, and met a lot of them. And then at the end of 1980, when I finished my honours degree, we went to I hitchhiked all the way up to Beitbridge, not realizing that I would be returning there to Messina and Beitbridge for 13 months of my military career later on. Hitchhiked through to Ballabella, Bulawayo. I had a wonderful time. Hitchhiked all the way back through Salisbury, down to Fort Victoria, where some people rode over some thugs rode over my baggage on the side of the road and nearly rode over me. But I got them back by later on throwing rocks through their window, which wasn't probably very, but I was very angry. Then I returned to South Africa in the January and went to the drill hall in Joburg, and then on the train to Prince, I was then called up to the School of Engineers in Kroonstad. So I was at Verkop, and now at that stage I was very ambivalent about going to military. But I decided, look, it's got to be done because in that stage I would have done 1 year if I'd gone before university, but in the time in 1978 they made it 2 years, so I had to do 2 years. But I decided to make it a positive experience, and so we had very good training, very good food, which was a good thing. And they taught us demolitions, mine warfare, water provision, all the things that the boating that we spent a lot of time with the Zodiac boats and the Mark IVs. We did a lot of explosive work, demolition of bridges, and so on. So I was very we learned a lot. I was on the CO's cadet officers course, but I had a fortunate incident where we went on a long hike, route march, and carrying rifles and kit and everything, and one of my buddies was really suffering. So I said to the Corps, he was really bad, but they wouldn't. It was fuzz bait, so I said I'll help him along and carry him and help him along. But my rifle I can't. So I gave it to a corporal who took it, but somewhere along the line he left it on the side of the road. And when I got back to when we got back exhausted, I said to him, "Now where's my rifle?" And he said, "No." Then he went white, and he had left it on the side of the road somewhere. So we had to jump in a galley, a jeep, and go back. And lo and behold, after I sort of remembered, he remembered where it was, and we found it still lying on the side of the road, which was as you will know, it was a very serious offence. So I was basically kicked off these years, which I think in the end was a good thing. We went to. I was posted to Bossiespruit which is also outside Kroonstad, on the NCO's course, and on the Valsrivier. I nearly drowned in the Valsrivier, rescuing a guy that couldn't swim. He climbed on top of me, and nearly. It's another incident where I nearly drowned, but luckily a very alert young officer dived in and knocked him out cold before he could push me totally under the water and hold me under the water. So that was a close call. Then in that August September of that year was the I just want to get Operation Protea, where they didn't have enough engineers it turned out to be a bigger operation than they thought. So we went up as a reserve squadron in charge of the water provision, the bridge, the mobile bridges, and so on. That only lasted for about 35 days, and then we came back, and then we went back to Kroonstad, and then it was posting out to different. I was actually meant to go to Bethlehem as an instructor, but I swapped with the guy, which was probably one of the best decisions of my life, was to swap with the guy that was posted to Messina, because he wanted to go to Bethlehem, which was closer. So I swapped with him, and I ended up in Messina at the end of that December, and basically spent the next 13 months there, which was a really fantastic time in my life. I learned and extremely important things in my life for my future as a farmer, water provision. I would just like to say at this point that at the beginning of our military, there was quite a bit of animosity between the English and the Afrikaans chaps. But I will tell you that Colden would mold us into by the end of that first year when we left, we were actually it's quite emotional when we went to our different places at the end of the first year for instruction. It was quite emotional. The guys had formed a very good attachment, and Afrikaans and English guys became good friends. And I made a friend in the sea that 44 years later, Corporal Kel Clear is still he was the best man at my wedding, and we're still in contact almost every week. So it was a really good bonding experience. So then in Messina, our main task was demolition of all the dovets and ketskoets, which in English is blinds and misfires on the shooting range outside Messina. Also, there was a lot of mines in bunkers. We had bunkers there was filled with mines from out of Rhodesia and Mozambique that were leaking. And every week, Kel and I we had the keys for this big bunker. We'd have to take all the explosives out and go and take them out into the shooting range with the bush. And eventually, we got quite lax with it. We would support corporate cortex around and ring main it and have a great time. And we got into trouble because one time we got lazy and we detonated too close to the base, and we caused such a huge explosion that it landed on the base, on the roofs. So that we got into big trouble about that. But I eventually was in charge of on the border there was White Bridge. Messina is 12 kilometers outside of White Bridge. White Bridge was also a base there, but then to the left, if you drove down to the west, you got to a place called Waipi. There wasn't a base there, but further on there was Vembi on the Botswana border, where Botswana and Rhodesia joined, and there was a beautiful base there called Vembi. Yeah, there was experience with the elephants there one night. Corporal Solben had gone on Usulov, and I took over patrolling the fence line and fixing the fence line. They had a double fence they called Operation Trampoline with sisal in between that women used to plant, and then the baboons used to come and pick up the sisal just as they were and were eating the sisals, jump over the fence. But one night we watched the elephants come up from Rhodesia. They were coming to eat the mealies at Waipi. It was under irrigation. There were beautiful mealies, sweet mealies, and they could smell it. And she came up to it was a iron, like a metal railway line in a concrete base with these cables and the dried mush fence, and very, very strong fence. But there was about 130 elephants, I would guess. And she put her head against it and pushed them, and others came and they broke it off about 2 feet above the concrete, pushed it down, stood on it. She did it at the other side, and then they came across. We could do nothing about this, but they got into the field. The farmers were very upset. They destroyed a lot of the crops there. But that night we lagered down in a nice place with trees, and the troops were under the trailer of the hippo, and I was sleeping in the hippo. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt this whole hippo doing this, and I got up with and put it through the armored glass, like the torch, like this. I just saw this big size of a saucer peeling, and these big eyelashes, and there was this elephant, and she was looking at me, and I was looking at her, and I could hear the rumbling, and then one of the troops cocked his rifle, and this went tuck tuck, and they just were drained. They just disappeared like ghosts. You didn't hardly even heard them. But that was an experience. Sorry, just have a glass of water. Then when I got to Messina, there was an old Jan. He was in charge of the stores. He had been a farmer, but he had joined the short-term permanent force, and he was a real old bugger. He was a very, and he didn't like Soties. He didn't like Engelsman. And he gave me quite a hard time in the first month or two. I had to go and draw fittings and pump supplies and taps and so on for the other base was Madimbu and then Golali in the game reserve at the north of the Kruger National Park. And he was very hard to work with at first, until I realized that if I approach him and say I want his advice on this and this and this pump and how to do that, and he showed me that we had a trouble with the suction pump at Madimba base, big Math and Bremen 8-stage pump, and I couldn't get it to pump. And he said, "Het jy gekyk vir die klein gaatjie?" I thought, a small hole like that can't do anything, and he showed me that it can do a lot, and you can't suck water above a water source above 32 feet. I knew it from physics, but I didn't actually realize it was, and he's actually exactly right. I went back and lowered it about a foot, and it sucked water and pumped it over the mountains there. So from young, eventually we became such good friends. I used to take him out in the Jeep, and we used to go out and go and he loved to get out from the stores and we actually at the end of the day became very good friends. And when I cried out, I left there. It was actually quite emotional. So good on Jan. I'm quite sure that you're in a better place now. And so then then we cried out of the army. Having, as I say, we also we gave instruction to the citizen force guys, some citizen force guys in water provision and mine warfare, which was really nice to give it. These were older guys, probably. I was then about 23, 24. They were already in this. Some of them 27, having done some camps and all that. Then the other incident that happened at Mossie is we came back from the patrol on the fence line on the border, and my guys were really hungry. We'd been for like 3 weeks on dry and rat packs, and I said to the sergeant major in charge of the provision because our 22 squadron, we were engineers, was 22 squadron was on one side. We had our own bar, our own mess. We used to draw rations from the infantry side, but we had our own mess and our own chefs, and that's in our own bar. And then the sergeant major came. I said, could I get some meat? Get from the Menard? I just wanted to make a braai, and he refused. But I said to him, okay, well then your bokop are going to have diarrhea within a short while. And he laughed in my face and he said, rubbish. And that's it. But he had 300 bokop coming in the next day, and I was in charge of the water purification of the water for the basin. But if you turn, chlorine was only be at 5 parts per million, and I went and turned the chlorine up into 29, 30 parts per million. And the next day, the bokop were all walking around like this, and he sent a whole lot of meat. He said, how much meat do you need? How much more do you need? And I said, no, that would be right. But just to rub it in, I went and made a braai on the edge of his parade ground. Made the braai there, and troops brought some skulls, and we braaied there. And he didn't say anything because I said, yeah, you want to have some more diarrhea. But anyway, that was. And then at Golali in the game reserve, I made a bad mistake as well. I went there to sort out some water problems, and I took some troops with to help with the problem. And then at Golali, the Levuvu River comes into the Limpopo River. Now the Limpopo River, we had these sand spits in Digger Wells. Because the sand spit it stands with a long spike that you can suck water, that the sand doesn't come in with the big Bremner pumps. And we fixed this thing up, and then we had a bit of time in the afternoon, and the guy said there's crocodiles in the Levuvu River. Because I lied to you not, there's probably there was probably in the region of 250, maybe 300 crocodiles lying on the sandbanks and everything like this. And one of my troops said to me, now he wants to shoot a crocodile. And I said, you can't shoot it. But he loaded the weapon. I said, unload your weapon. But I didn't. I was more convincing him not to shoot this crocodile because there was a nice big one lying here. And then we went back to the base, and I was lax, and we got a bit muck, and I didn't, before you go into you have to disarm, make safe. And I didn't make safe, and we got into the parade ground and stopped the vehicles and got out, and I went off to do something, and he was standing begging about, and he put his blitzbreaker of his R1 on his boot, and then talking, he pulled the trigger, so he shot his whole front toes off and stuff, and he seemed quite happy at the end when I saw him. When he came back eventually, he'd got 10,000 in those days, like 10,000 rand of compensation for this effort of his. But anyway, I got into big trouble for that red carpet stuff. But it was my fault. But I learned a lesson. So then, okay, then I in the time I was up in Messina, I managed to had saved enough money. I bought a little Mazda 323. And came down with it, and somebody organized a blind date for me with my now wife that I've been married to for over 40 years. We had our wedding anniversary of 40 years last July 14th. We got married in July the 14th, 1984. But in 1982, in the August, I met her on a blind date, and she was nurse. She was doing a nursing training at the Joburg General Hospital. And we got on very well. I was so nervous that I managed to lock my keys in my Mazda, and then had to meet this girl, and now in a big fluster. But I had a white T-shirt on with these smart pants and everything. And by the time I finished there, getting the keys out, I was full of grease and big mess up. But anyway, that's the way she first saw me. So, but we're still married. It must have been all right because we're still married. She's a wonderful woman. She's in charge of the a big clinic at Napier. She's a operations manager there, and been working for them for more than 22 years for the Western Cape Health Department. She's a very, very good nurse, and very good at diagnosing people, and she's very well known in the district for her diagnostic ability. That's Anna Marie, my wife, and then we had the 3 children: Megan, Bryce, and Taryn. But I will come to that now. So then I demobbed from the military and went to. I worked as a technical representative for Tongaat Milling, and I went around in the Eastern Cape. I was based in Uitenhage. Went around to all the farmers, customizing rations, working out rations for the different livestock: pigs, cattle, sheep, and it was to sell food mill products as well, feed, supplementary feed in there. But I didn't really enjoy that. I wasn't a very good salesman. I didn't have the gift of the gab. So then a German group from Natal that had a farm at Tsitsikamma asked me to develop a farm. So I joined them, and I developed a farm for them there. And that was a good experience. Had a horse kick a sheep to death there that I'd never seen before. And there I started realizing what animal. This is one of the main things, is what cattle and animals can eat, what they can get up to with eating different things. So I did that, and then it didn't go well at the end. So I left, and I joined the Leather Industries Research Institute in Grahamstown, where I worked on hides and skins, different methods of preserving hides and skins of animals, of cattle hides and sheep skins. It was a really fascinating job. I used to all different. Try not to use salt, because salt is quite a pollutant, but we'd use boric acid or other sulfates and that to try, and we had them in different temperatures in foods, and every 5 days I had to go and smell them by subjective test, and it was sometimes terrible, the smell that came out of this. But I stayed with them for a year, and then we bought a house in Grahamstown, because I got a subsidy from the Leather Institute. It was a part of Rhodes University. And then there was a lot of 1984 was a year of a lot of unrest. In 1985, so then I decided to take a job in Standerton at Early Bird, and we left Grahamstown, a house on the market, and we got to Standerton. I was a rearing manager for Early Bird, and then after 2 weeks, I finished all our positions. We got married earlier in that year, and all our wedding possessions, everything was and all our furniture was on this lorry. And the manager came to tell me that they on the Raglan Road, the lorry was going very slowly, and these people had arrived, but it was political right. They attacked the truck, killed the driver, opened up the truck, stole most of the stuff, and then set it on fire. So we were in Standerton in almost the middle of. It was very cold, and we just had the clothes that we had, and basically nothing. So we lost all of our possessions, and it was a very hard time. All our wedding presents and so on. But that was probably a good make or break situation. But we decided that we would not be materialistic about everything, because you can have a lot of stuff, be materially wealthy today, and tomorrow it can all be gone. So then I worked as a reading manager for Early Bird. It was a very good company to work for 13 months. But I didn't like the poultry industry. It didn't impress me. I learned a lot, but it didn't impress me. So I saw an advert for work in a Womboland back in Southwest Africa, and I said, I'd like to go back there again. And she was a bit hesitant. I said, okay, let's go for the interview. So I went for an interview with Jan Snyman in Pretoria, and he was a really great guy. I didn't realize at the time he was an alcoholic. He kept it quite well hidden, but he was an alcoholic, and actually he was very bad, but he was a very, very gentle, very nice guy, and he was QRC of the Department of Agriculture in the Womboland. So we climbed on he organized a trip up there. We flew on the Saturday floor sea up to Ndongwe. Now, when you come into Ndongwe again, as you know, the plane comes in from, I think it's about 18,000 feet, and it goes, the gunship is over here. It's just for anti-missile, and then it comes down and flattens out like this. So you can see all the all the wires, cables going like this. And Anna was really not impressed with this. But anyway, we landed there, and they took us out to Agongo is the college, and it's now the University of Namibia. But it was a college, and the school kids, and a college for agriculture. But it was right next to the Agongo military base. And they took us out there. We saw the place, came back in, and Anna was still very, because it was in the operational area, 53 kilometers north of Oshakati on the road to Rokana. But I can be quite persuasive sometimes. So when she convinced, this was a good place to go to, and it was. And we got there, and then we had a lovely house, well built up with the narrow windows. Nice porch with glass, right next to the army base, so we felt fairly safe. And we were there. There was a bunker outside there had been attacks. SAPPER had mortared the Agongo before 2 or 3 times. Because in the feed sheds where the sacks were against the wall stacked there like that, you could see where the shrapnel comes through the roof, all the shrapnel marks in the walls, and they stopped there where the bags of feed had been, but the bags of feed also had lots of shrapnel, so they had to sieve it all and that sort of thing. I still found bags afterwards, older bags that were full of metal pieces. But one thing that was really said that happened at Egongo just before I got there, about 2 weeks before I got there, there was a drain from a big real sewage drain from the army going down to oxidation ponds and everything, and it was quite a deep sump sort of thing, and there was a problem, it was blocked or something, so they sent the engineer down there to go and see what the problem was, and he never came out. So they sent the lieutenant sent another guy down, and he also didn't come out. So then they was busy sending another guy down, and a doctor came happened to be luckily happened to be passed. He said, "What's going on?" He said, "No, he's sending another guy because these other two guys are not coming out." So the doctor said, "Whoa. He says, "Get those other guys. Don't go down." Anyway, they managed to get a gas mask, and these two guys were stone dead inside there. It was methane gas. So there was a lot of methane buildup and these guys, methane you can't really smell, and they died. It was a very sad incident, terrible incident. Anyway, we'd been there. Now there was a bunker outside the house that was filled with rubbish, and I hadn't managed to clean it out yet. And we got in the January. This was the May 1986. We were sleeping. It was very hot. So it was still very hot, and the temperature used to get up to 45 degrees at Wambaland, and the army base used to shoot a fire plan and water fire plan every night. You could go going out like that into the Shona on the west side. And this night I woke up and it was and I said to her, "That's incoming. That's coming in." So I said, the door to our room was half open. There's a big porch with all this glass windows and stuff at the back here. And I said, "Well, just climb in the cupboard." So she got under the cupboard. We were both actually naked. She climbed in, I climbed in. And as I was about to go in after her, the door suddenly flew open. And then there was this incredible detonation where a mortar had actually landed in the backyard about 15 feet out from the window, blew all the windows out, blew the door open. And only afterwards, that was in that November, December, we went on a trip. I wanted to lock my GC and shotgun away in the room, put on the carpet in the room, and I looked at the door handle. I hadn't ever seen it before, but there was a big hole in the keyhole, and I opened it up, and there was a big piece of shrapnel in the door, in the keyhole. And I measured with a piece. I knew exactly where that mortar tail. I've still got the mortar tails, yeah, where the mortar tail had landed, and I measured with a piece of string. If that door hadn't been half closed, that piece of shrapnel would have probably got me through the neck like that. So there's another incident where our Lord actually spared my life, because I should have probably been passed on then. So anyway, then it was wonderful at Egongo. I had a wonderful time. It was a 4,000, nearly 5,000 hectares in the middle of Wambaland, where there was a drought on it at the time, and it was protected with jackal-proof fencing, and we had water points. It was well. It was well designed by the we call it the apartheid government at that stage, but it was really well designed. We had a dairy. We milked 214 rounds for cows by hand with 16 Wamba women with hand. You don't get mastitis. It went very well, and I had wonderful Wamba, what they call officials there. I used to lecture at in the college as well, breeding and nutrition, and it was really nice to lecture these people. And then Anna Marie went away on a trip, and then SAPPER attacked us from about 11 kilometers away with rockets, with a 122 millimeter rocket. Apparently they take the rocket off that Stalin organ, and they got a cable to it with a detonator cord thing. And then with the guy that operated that thing, he knew what he was doing. The first rocket landed in the base and landed in the vessel in the Manasseh's gas bottles at the back and just blew the whole thing. And I think it's one of the gas bottles went through the B-48 mast. So there was no comms with the B-48 radio to Oshakati. The second one went through the roof of the water provision. Jan Bontes went through the roof of his house, didn't detonate, and landed on the other side, detonated there. And another one landed on a pipeline to Oshakati from Lokona and hauled that out of the ground. And that was quite a vicious attack. But again, it could have been a close call. Then the other incident that happened was the landmine incident. I was meant to go to the North Camps to go and check for grazing in the North Camps, and Riku Namvundi asked me if he could use my vehicle to go and check to move the bulls. And he always wrote foot in the hook, and I said, yes, you can use it. And he went off, and I was busy doing the change for the sorting checks, the coinage. And about 20 minutes later, I heard this incredible boom. And cut a long story short, we went up there with the army engineers, and he detonated. When he left, we drove out. They had lick on the back of the bucky, and 3 of his laborers, of his stockmen on the back, and they hit it with the left back wheel, and it was just a mess. The whole back of the bucky. I took some photos. The whole back of the bucky was wrong. The 2 guys were dead. He was still alive in the front. His fingers were off here, and the old guy with him was quite badly injured. And the other guy lived for a while. I found him in a tree, in a mapani tree, because I couldn't find the 3rd guy. He was lying up in a mapani tree with his ankle down below his hip here, and the blood just pouring out. But he only lived for 1 or 2 days, and then in the hospital, and then he died. But that was a very, very sad incident. But my daughter my eldest daughter was born in Namibia, Megan. She's now 38. She was conceived, I think, on the way up to, when we drove up to one time when we drove up from Standerton. I think she was conceived in Namatoni in Etosha, which we visited many times after. A wonderful, wonderful place in those days. And then there was quite an experience with her, because I went to buy bulls at Omageni, which is the research farm in Namibia. I think you, Koos, will know where Omageni is. Omageni, up there near Okakuyo, Ochirongo. But I drove with the Mercedes, and she came with me, and then she got really sick on the way back, but she got what they call preeclampsia. Long story short, eventually I was in the new hospital in Oshakati. They built a new hospital, but the equipment wasn't working. I had to sit the whole night with her. Luckily, the doctor had come back to check. We took it came back to check on her, and she was fitting and nearly died. Her organs were actually collapsing, but I managed to keep this peristaltic pump going to put electrolyte into. And I phoned early in the morning I tried to get a lift down to with the Air Force, but unfortunately they had no planes at that moment. So I got hold of Namib Air, and I'm ever grateful to Namib Air to this day, because they were so helpful. They said they don't have a plane to take me, the doctor, and her at that moment, but they said they did have a seat. I said, can you make a plan? And they really made a plan. They took the seats out of I think it was a King Air Cessna, and they took all the seats out. It came and landed eventually at Ndangwe Air Base. We got her down in an ambulance. The temperature was 47, 48 degrees on the runway. It was incredibly hot, and she was nearly dying with preeclampsia. Anyway, we got her into, as we came into Europe, that radio ahead, and there was ambulances waiting there. They took her to the state hospital at in Windhoek. Can't remember the name, it slips me, but it was really well run, and she immediately went in for emergency Caesar. They stabilized her, emergency Caesar, and our gynecologist came out, and he just said he was actually a previous vet, but he had fingers like bananas. I don't know how he was a gynecologist, but he said, "Oh, you're a father. It's a daughter." And she was Megan was only small. She was so tiny. Her foot was only the size of my thumb, and she was born 2 months prematurely. But Anna spent the next 3 weeks in intensive care. She was very, very bad, and but she survived that, and Megan survived. And so then basically at the end of the day, we had a wonderful time. But it came time then, and we got to 1988, and SAPPER was getting really active. The Typhoon forces and the Navy forces were getting very active, and let me tell you that I don't want people to say that SAPPER was just a ragtag army or this or that. Some of those guys were very, very well trained. They were some of them they were extremely brave as well. They were good fighters. I mean, to come across there and have basically the might of the Kufut and our military again, that takes a brave man. So I have respect for them. They were tough, but it was I had children now, and it was getting dangerous. I asked my guys what would happen if they came into power. Would we be in danger? And they said they don't know, because some of my guys were SAPPER sympathizers. I knew that. They said possibly not good to stay. So I applied for work in Ciskei. I got excuse me. I got work as a livestock project manager in Ciskei, with Ciskei Agricultural Corporation, and went down there and had a wonderful time there for 4 years. Between we had I had 58,000 hectares of valley bushveld grazing. 4 managers, 2 black, Listen Zamani, Silas Zansi, and Christo Steyman, Dave Cocroft, and Rob Clacy. And we ran this 58,000 hectares with 6,000 head of cattle. And I had in Goonestad, and we had a Bonsmarisstad. Silas ran of course, a man ran he had studied at Fort Hare at Alice, and he was very, very good, a very good stockman. And Listen Zamani, excellent stockman, very switched on. And then we initiated under Jim Hundleby, me and Jim, he was my mentor, he was the livestock specialist. We initiated the heifer and bull scheme, where the people to give better genetics into cattle, Goonie cattle, any cattle, into the Ciskei stock population. We farmers could go to the agricultural department and get a letter where they only paid those days something like 200 rand, and then we would subsidize our good heifers and put good heifers into the rural population. And this worked very well until it started getting abused by some politicians, and there was a general that was seconded to, I won't mention his name, he became commissioner of police, and him and another director general of agriculture started manipulating the situation. And they first tried to intimidate Listen, my manager, quite badly, and eventually I got so cross, and I went and laid a charge against them at the Moyeni police station, and this turned into a big thing. Where they asked me to back down from the company, and I refused to back down. I was so fed up and so cross that it eventually put a big target on my back, and I had to leave that wonderful place because it was just getting untenable to work there. And I was very sad to leave there, but I went to Swaziland and worked for a joint Tambuti Estates, and ran the biggest dairy in Swaziland on the Sutu River until they decided they didn't want to dairy anymore. They we had the dairy and the beef ranch, Tendeka ranch, but they didn't want to do this anymore. So they, because they wanted to plant more citrus trees there, so they closed that down. I sell which was very sad for me, sell all the cattle. But I was really fortunate to get, I was approached by Crooks Brothers, a big sugar company in Swaziland and in Northern Natal, to come and run their ranches at Bajay and at Komati Poort, which I took the opportunity. It was a wonderful company. I had a very good time with them. We had a lot of poaching at Bajay's in the Lowveld at Big Bend. We had a lot of poaching. There was a lot of game on the farms. And they used to come in with snares and even rifles and come and shoot come across the Sutu River into the estates, the biggest like Ilovo and Big Ben Sugar and a huge number of estates there. Nyoni Army's Swaziland irrigation scheme, which was up north, further north. But they used to come in and set snares and that. And there was 2 anti-poaching units. I had my own security guys that used to patrol, but they weren't armed, but they could pick up the spoors. And then I had one very good tracker, John Steenkamp, an older colored Swazi guy, but he was an extremely fine person. He used to carry an axe on the back of his, strapped to his back like this, and he was very accurate with that axe. And he used to hunt wild boar in the forest there as well, in the bush, on the Tendeka River. And he taught me a bit of tracking, but there was an excellent tracker called Tenga Stolo. But what I'm getting to is that they stole 50. He came to me early one morning and said they stole 15 of my black Brangus heifers, which are the most beautiful animals. They shone like oil in the sun. They were like oil on water. They sparkled like this. He says they've taken 15 of them across the river. So often the police in Swaziland were excellent. They were very, very good, except they had the same problem that they always had no transport. So I rushed down to them, told them the situation, and I had these 2-way radios. My guys tracked them through the Sutu River, through Tengrestolo, tracked them through a dip where they dip all the cattle, and they came out. He followed them through, came out all these tracks to the other side. He was so good. He said they changed their shoes here to throw them off the track. They changed their shoes here, and then we were coming around through Swaffenani. So we eventually, as they were selling them in this Bulma, we managed to catch them, and there were 4 of them. And my guys came from this side, me and the police came from this side, and the one tried to jump through the thorn. He got badly scratched and injured in there. And then these police were made. They said, "We got barbed wire." I said, "I always carry barbed wire." So they handcuffed, but they didn't have handcuffs, so they just bound there. Then they wrapped barbed wire around these guys' bodies. These 2 on the back, and three of them on the back. They wrapped this barbed wire around them, laid them on the back. Said, "You lie there, you lie there." And then when we're driving back, they keep pulling my wheel like this, and these guys are rolling around in the back. Eventually, I had to stop and say, he says there was blood running out the back of the buck there like this. So I said, "No, so these guys are going to bleed to death before we get to Big Ben police station." But anyway, they came up for trial and they were sentenced. They had very heavy sentences for stock theft there. I think they got something like 12 or 15 years. And had a wonderful time in Swaziland. And then the MD, Dudley Crooks, asked me to, by this time I had now 3 children, and they were all going to school. There were good schools in Swaziland, but Dudley asked me if I would come down to the Western Cape, to the Overberg. He was the MD, a very, very good MD. And he said they've taken over Fairfield, which was a big estate, and they had a lot of sheep. And we had our own sheep at Koos. We had 5 farms, totaling 5,083 hectares. And Fairfield was very, very big, but they had a 10-year contract. So we we had interviews. We came down, and Anna wasn't. She loved Swaziland, so she wasn't too keen. But I thought I'd get advancement in there to become estate manager, which we never materialized. But it's just one of those things that did depress me a lot, and I think that is where I got into falling into the disease of alcohol raised its head, and I started drinking quite a lot. I started misusing and abusing alcohol. Just slowly it crept up on you. So that's where it started. And then I just wanted to go back to Wambaland. After the fire, after those mortars, our army shot back, and the mortars landed in a shona to the west where I put cattle in. And the next day I had to go and destroy 9 cattle that were shot to pieces by our own mortars, legs off and hips shattered, and that I had to destroy them. But a while later, a heifer came in they shot some beligtingsflares up, and I'm just going back to the different things that animals eat. And this animal had the potjie from the phosphorus flare, from the incandescent flare, the beligtingswakkel. And in the mouth like this, and anyway, I brought it into the crush and saw this. Anyway, she'd eaten this whole parachute right into the room, so just the cable was sticking with a spot, and we had to, when she slaughtered, we had to slaughter and take it out. And in then the cattle have eaten pieces of piping, plastic bags, oranges that they can't eat because it sticks in they can't eat the orange at the box when they blow it up. And then in Ciskei, I had a beautiful bull who went to Sekakuni land and bought these beautiful bulls with Victor Biggs. Came back with him, and this big and Daga bull, a beautiful bull. He just started losing condition, and the vet came, took blood. We did everything, checked for diseases, everything, and he just went bad. And eventually one day I brought him into the crush, and I put because I knew something must be stuck here. I put my hand down his throat, and came out, my fingers were all cut and bloody here. And I got pliers, and I pulled out about 7 pieces of corrugated zinc plate, the old type is the thick one, rusted zinc plate that he'd been. What had happened, we figured out, is he must have come from where there's a lot of iron. Now he was short of iron, so he went and ate this old zinc plate from an old tire area there, and he got this stuff stuck in his throat. But this is all the funny things that these animals eat. But anyway, then came down to the Eastern Cape, and I lived at Fairfield for 2 years, running 16,000 sheep. It was a nice place, but it belonged to Van der Bijl, PK Van der Bijl. He used to be the Minister of Defense for Rhodesia. It was his family's farm. His son Valerian is now a big man. He was a youngster then. But PK was a fine old guy, very funny with his pink gin and tonics and his long socks, and he used to curse at God the weather, and he was a real character. But my wife was actually the one that pronounced him dead when he died at 2 o'clock in the morning. Then we moved over to Quarry, to Klein Quarry, where I had really good stockmen and had a wonderful time with the sheep, and we had lots of stock there as well, but we managed to stay on top of it. And then another incident with the bulls in Ciskei, another 3 bulls that I bought from it came from Swaziland, I think. They were standing next to a stream at Lessendrum, and there was a big lightning storm, and I watched this lightning hit, and I thought, yeah, there'll be bulls dead there. I went there the next day, and there were 3 bulls, 2 on one side of the stream, another. Lightning struck between them, stone dead. The blood all coagulates and goes black and hard, and nobody will eat it. And then at Quarry in the Overberg, I had 600 young lambs that I had weaned from their mothers, and they were on a place at a farm called Kaikudi, on a cliff above a river, and the lightning struck there, and these animals all ran over this cliff, and over 400 of them were killed in one go, broken, and it was just the most horrifying thing to ever have to go and pick on the cliff face and down in the valley at the bottom, pick up all these. The lightning had struck, and they got such a fight. And when sheep take off like that, they just run until they went over the edge of this cliff. It was the most horrifying thing to see. So that's, could I say, probably then the company needed money to buy farms in Mozambique, so they sold out to a syndicate of other grain. We grew a lot of grain as well. Koos grew a lot of grain in the area, and we had fruit farms at Feyerboom near Grabouw, and they sold out to the syndicate from Heidelberg and Swellendam or something like, I think it was like 161 million rand the farms went for. And I worked for those people, Klipdale Boerdery, for 13 months, but then they decided they don't want to do the livestock anymore. They just wanted to concentrate on grain, because they had these huge tractors with huge rigs, and they would just plow up and down. So they took out all the fences and that. So eventually it became untenable. And then they came to me and they offered me a package, a very good package, which I took. And then I basically went into semi-retirement. I make rustic furniture, I grow vegetables, and I started making wood, but it became more of a hassle than making a good firewood. But but in the meantime, I come back to all the experiences where the landmine, the mortars that our Supreme Commander, our Lord, has spared my bacon. And I sat down after I got retrenched, and I thought to myself, no, and God actually, He didn't come and talk to me in a big loud voice, or come and, but he let it be known to me that my duty, my place on this earth is to be of service to humankind and also to animals. So I joined the AAC, Animal Anti-Cruelty League, and we almost every month in areas we spay, we sterilize animals from the rural community and from the destitute community and the informal communities. We bring in all the dogs, and there's some wonderful people that help with it. It's funded from overseas by a German company, and we have vets, and they sometimes we sterilize up to 130 cats in 2 or 3 days, 130 cats and dogs. And then when they're coming out, what I do, what as volunteers do, is we help set up the cages, clean the cages. Other people wash the blankets, because when they come out, dogs are very susceptible. When they come out to cold shock, they actually can go cock, and they start wandering around. So we calm them down and make them feel safe, and put blankets over them, and that sort of thing. And then also I got involved with a wonderful woman called Mariska Marais. She was very, very good with horses. She came from Robertson, but when she came to Bedardorp, she started a program helping disabled children from Elam School, and disabled children from all over the Overberg, and also children with autism, with the horses. Now, I never knew, but once I got involved with it, I realized just how therapeutic a horse is. If you take a crippled person or a disabled person and put him on a horse, there's some wonderful connection that goes on between the horse and their eyes, where they dull and where their eyes light up, and the horses seem to realize that they must now, even horses that are normally quite boisterous and jumping around, they calm down, and they seem to understand. So sometimes these people are so bad that you have to and so with it that you have to put them on the horse and hold them on the horse, but they just love it, that motion of the horse, just, and that they can see they up, and it's just wonderful. And for autistic children on the autism scale, they somewhere on the what they call the scale, it helps them tremendously with their confidence and that sort of thing. So yes, I started at Corrie, I started imbibing and drinking a lot, and then discovered that it is a disease, and it's an all-powerful, baffling. Sometimes I didn't even like the alcohol, but you would drink just to get that, and that feel of not being, just to separate yourself, and that you don't to get away from your worries, or your despondency or anything like that. But funny enough, I used to drink mainly if I got a project right, or I was working on something and it was all going right, and I say, hey, have a dop now, and then have a dop, and then later on realize, but I drank a lot more than I should. And I got into a state where my children sometimes didn't want, because you make an idiot of yourself. They didn't want to come home. Your wife was getting obviously very upset with you, because she didn't know when she comes home from a holiday, she didn't know what to expect. And it got very bad. It got very, then I would break promises, sober for a long time, maybe 8 months, and then all of a sudden something would kick it off, and start again. So I've fallen many times, but I never found the Alcoholics Anonymous until I hit a real rock bottom, where my wife left me. She left me for 2 weeks. Said to me, my children didn't want to come. Nobody wanted to know my story. And I was so devastated, and I thought, I've really messed everything up now. I've really messed everything up. And the good Lord came to my rescue again, because somewhere in the dark place, he said to me, you've hit basically the rock bottom now, and you've got work to do now, and the only way out is in. Somebody told me that a long time ago. The only way out is in. The only way you're going to get out of a situation is in. You've got to go in. So I said never say never. I swore I'd never go to AA, and I didn't need it. And I was in such a bad place that I phoned AA in a monastery. But it's far away. We tried to. There was another guy in Napier, this is 15 kilometers away. He tried many times to make a group, and we made a group, and it would go for a while. People would attend, and then they would not come back again for whatever reasons. It's a terrible predicament, and a disease. So, and an affliction, and it brings out bad character. And people come, and then they don't come back again. And they come again, and then they disappear. And we tried it here in Bedalsdorp and Napier, and there are people with problems with drink, but they don't like to admit it, or they say, think their position in the community doesn't allow them to. If only they knew the path and the way out, that you can be, and the fellowship of the group of Alcoholics Anonymous. So eventually I decided there's only one way, is to join the group on a Thursday. So I travel 103 kilometers all the way to Mohannes and back again every Thursday, and attend some other functions as well. And I walked into that group the first day, and was so warmly greeted. And there was, over the months and years, I've realized that this affliction can get anybody. For there was young girls of 18, young men of 18, 19, 20, young girls as young as 16. There was older women of 79, old men of 84 that's been sober, some sober for a long time, and they still come back again because they say it's one day at a time. You have to, it's one day at a time, or diet one day at a time. And this is the only way that you can overcome and get on the right track. Is the fellowship of your fellow travelers on this journey, and your humility to your higher power, and he gives you the strength. You have to understand that this alcohol is people have to understand alcohol is baffling, all powerful. You will never be able to do it on your own. I don't care who you. I honestly don't care who you are. You will not have the power to do it on your own. You have to, whatever your higher power is, whatever it is, can be God, it can be something that can be, but you have to give yourself over to your higher power, find humility, get rid of your resentment, and be able to talk to say to your fellow travelers that in the group, this is what I've been battling. This is how I'm finding it now. I had and you can pick up the phone and a number of people will talk to you and help you get out of your predicament at the moment. And I can honestly say it's helped me so much in my life. And my life is now become, my children come back to buy with me. My wife is happy when she comes home. My dog doesn't get kicked anymore. Because it's just wonderful. It is just the most wonderful opening to my life now. And I regret, and then I don't regret going through that, because I've been able to learn, and I have been able to help 3 or 4 people on the road to recovery. And you must never let your guard down. You must never let your guard down. It's there with you. You must every day get on your knees. You must every day, only for today. You only have to get through today. That's all you have to do. Just today. And you'll find that you get through today, and then you start again tomorrow. Just today, Lord. Just today. And he helps you. He gets you through that day. And the next, and eventually you see, but a month's gone by now. And then it's 2 months. And you go back to the meetings. And you talk to people. And then you help people. And then you be of service to people. And all of a sudden your life takes on a new meaning, and you suddenly realize that this is what the Lord this is what the Lord wants you to do. Hy wil hê jy moet humiliteit, en jy moet sacrifice, en jy moet mense help. And if we can all help each other along the path of life, then we'll all do so much better. So I would just like to say, because all the people that are suffering, that are really battling with this despicable and terrible affliction, and it is a disease. It's a genetic. It's been proven. It is a disease, genetic and circumstances. But there is positively hope. There is hope, and you will be spared. You'll see. You'll look back on your life, and you'll know why you've been spared, and why God has a mission for you. Everybody is important. Everybody has a mission, no matter who you are. And everybody can find succor and can find their way out of this deep hole. You just have to have faith in your higher power, and go to the AA meeting and talk to your fellow travelers on this journey of recovery. A solid mark. You will make it. You will make it. I promise you. Okay. I think so I've talked a long time, but thank you very much for the opportunity, Koos.
And I must tell you this, you say you talked for a long time, but it felt like 5 minutes to me. I was just listening and listening, but of course now it's question time. And I just want to hear briefly, what was your impressions of Rhodesia when you went there as a young man, as a student almost? Did it look like a country at war or different?
Koos, when I went, the end of 1980, the war had actually come to an end. They brought all the arms into the Zipra and Zanu, but I did get that there was a lot of friction between the Shaunas and the Ndebele, the Zanda and Zipra. You got the feeling that there was a lot of, but I didn't see any. Although I did get a ride in a military vehicle called a crocodile. I got a lift on a crocodile, and I think it was Zipra former insurgents that were now had laid down or were not active anymore, because what happened was we went from Beitbridge. I met a guy, and then we had to overnight at a place called Bella. We got dropped off at Bella. Balla Balla. It's called Balla Balla, on the way to Bulawayo. And we were quite scared, because there was only 2 of us, and I would have really been quite terrified if I'd been on my own, knowing that there were still people wandering around, probably armed and that, and so on. So what we did is there was a station there, and there was old house here. We didn't go in the house or anything like that. We went in the bush, about 15, and we crawled into the bush with our rucksack and suitcases, and we lay there. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, we didn't really sleep well, but 2 o'clock in the morning, this train, it was the strangest thing, this train shunted in, and some vehicles came up, and there was a lot of, it looked like arms or something was moving from one to the other. There was only a little bit of torchlight, but we couldn't see clear because it was about 300 meters away, but we could hear them talking. I could talk a little bit of, I could pick up a bit of the Ndebele, and I could hear that they were being very suspicious and very, 2 o'clock in the morning, there was something definitely going on. But anyway, we waited till sun, and then we got on the road again, and everything was quiet by the station there. And a little while later, this crocodile came along, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "To Bulawayo." And he said, "Well, you can jump on." So there's this crocodile it was a mineproof vehicle with these vehicles out the front here, and it used to wander on the road like this. But I arrived in Bulawayo on this vehicle. But my impression was my cousins formed, my uncle and cousins formed at a place called Karoi, just northwest of near Kariba. Those Boeings they shot down, the Hunyani, the Boeings they shot down, the Viscounts, they actually landed on the farm, 3 farms away from him, nearly by the corner of his farm. The first one actually landed there, that they shot down. It took off from Kariba, remember? And they put a SAM 7 into it. And there were some survivors, but the Zipra killed the survivors. They raped them and killed them. But my cousins were in the Rhodesian Light Infantry, but they were a bit older than me. But I went around Rhodesia, and it was a wonderful place. Went to Kariba, went to Salisbury, Fort Victoria. At that time, I found it was a beautiful and the agriculture was top notch, and it's such a horrible pity that it's become the basket case it is now.
Yes, I wrote about those shooting down of those 2 Viscounts, and I'm still negotiating with the Fighting Men of Rhodesia channel to give me somebody who can tell us more about that incident or incidents, because we were 2 of them. But I think a lot of you out there will know what we're talking about anyway. I think at that stage also, now when you traveled there, the place was already called Zimbabwe, not Rhodesia anymore. But it was a wonderful country. My impressions of it was really good. But now I need to ask you now a difficult question. I mean, you're a man who went to university first. Did you find university in those days to be very liberal or conservative?
Koos, I would say the agricultural, I went to University in Natal in Pietermaritzburg and did my BSc agriculture there. And I would say, especially the agricultural faculty was conservative. Conservative lecturers, conservative students. A lot of, as I say, come from Rhodesia, been in hard war. And a lot of our South Africa, there's a number of Afrikaans guys came from farming backgrounds, down to earth people, most of the agricultural faculty. But there obviously was the other students that did BA or philosophy or all this, and were more liberal. But I would not say there was any. We never had any. There was never a riot. There was never protests. Basically, it was. I think it was not allowed. I think if as I understood it, if you caused a protest or a riot on campuses, you would be. It was almost you signed the agreement that you would be expelled. You would be kicked off. And the police in Pietermaritzburg, as you know, they were pretty. There was infiltrators from the on all campuses and that, and we eventually figured out who was it, but they were very good. They were literally as students and this sort of thing. So, but the police was very well informed what was going on. It was the start then of the early days, but the police knew where the trouble where there be trouble fomenting. They were very on top of it. But it was, to answer your question, I would say pretty conservative.
Yeah, no,
and even I went on. Sorry, I went on in 1995. Dudley Crooks, the MD of, I got an opportunity to go and do a master's in sustainable meesters in volhoubare landbou, but the only place that was offering it was the Free State University of Vrystaat. And he balked. He said he'd pay for the tuition and the traveling there, because I used to have to go about every 6 weeks to the university. But it was more correspondent. But it was a wonderful, sustainable, how to farm sustainably, your actual agricultural practices, the economic sustainability, the social sustainability, bringing in your social account to it, and that. So it was a wonderful course. I'll be honest, I never completed. I got all the way to my thesis and everything, and then because of moving from Swaziland and constraints with the children and everything, I never had it, but I'd done all the work. But I'll be honest with you, I never completed. But I gained so much. I gained so much from doing it, and thank you, Dudley, for giving me the opportunity for that. So Free State was also another experience, also at that stage in 95, conservative. Also, I never saw any problem. Very nice university.
Yes, I of course spent 5-6 years there, and I must say it was very strange for me, because some of the professors were very liberal and others were very, very conservative. I mean, almost far right wing, if I can use that word in those days terms. But there were a few which I would definitely have shot if I was still in the police and it was still in the old days. But anyway, no, it's interesting because university do change the way you look at life. I mean, you're not the same as the guy who goes in. I mean, you do come out a little bit different in your views, especially with us in law. I mean, we had to learn how to think, and that's probably the most difficult thing to teach. But when you were back in Wambuland now and you see these trooper running around there and driving around, do you feel a bit like sorry for them, or do you feel grateful that you're out and done and you've got your wife with you and you're carrying on with your life? Or is it a mixture of those two feelings when you look at the young men?
Koos, I think you don't know. It was a mixture of, if I'm really totally honest, it was a mixture of feeling, because I could in a way understand the South African people, they will to but perhaps get rid of the apartheid government and that sort of thing. But I also knew the way they were doing it, because there's a book by Bierkes called A Struggle Betrayed. And anybody that has the opportunity to read that will understand just how the methods were disgusting. She got all their children, a lot of their children were abducted. She's actually a real Boston color, but a lot of children got abducted and indoctrinated, and they got taken over into Angola or to Zambia and so on, and she calls it a struggle betrayed, because she says they struggled, and she says at the end of the day, Quattro camp, what went on there, Quattro camp, the atrocities that went on there, the rape and of the women folk, if you weren't a good soul, what they did to you, terrible atrocity, and they did. I mean, you read, I've got the book. If you read, it's not a thick book, but it's all these letters. And it shows you that the struggle was horribly betrayed by SAPPER. But I got very upset with the methods of SAPPER, because I forgot to tell you this incident. In its wisdom, the Wamba of the government decided to pay all the laborers with a check. And they could, out in the bush, they can do nothing with the check. So what I decided to do was I would do all the coinage. That's what happened when the landmine went off. I was doing the coinage, and then I would take it to the bank. And I had a guy there. I bribed him a bit. I took a lot of butter and some pork. That we got cheap butter and pork. So I used to take him butter and pork. I'd give it to him, and then he would quickly sort out that. And I would go spend in 2 or 3 hours. I'd have all the coinage. I had to come back and pay everybody there in cash. He'd take all the checks and do everything and put it in a suitcase. And I came back, and now it was Barclays Bank, and it was outside Oshikati on the road going out towards Ruakana. There was a lot of this Enoch, Eerste Nasionale, Ontwikkelings Corporasie, Enoch, and a lot of other business and cooker shops and so on, and small businesses and hardware. But I was driving up the road towards the bank, and I still remember clearly. We had a friend of ours that worked in the bank, a very good friend, Leon Frederick's wife. And the Wamba woman was walking up the stairs. Now the bank was quite busy, because it was about 1:45 or so. And it was a bit of an overcast day. And you'll remember this when I tell you the incident, or you can go look it up. This woman was walking into the bank up the stairs with a baby on her back or under, like this. And the next thing, I just remember I saw the bank go in like this, and then explode outwards like this with a tremendous force. And I rode off this side of the road like this, and I was also totally, because I was about 100 meters from the bank, I suppose, something like that. And I drove slowly up like this, and I stopped, and there was 50 Rand notes. I think had just come out. There's a big 50 Rand notes, and these 50 Rand notes were floating in the air and coming down, and people, when they got out of the shock, they were running around trying to collect all this money. And this woman with the baby was gone, but the baby, I'd stopped, and this older Wamba came up to me, and he tapped on my window, and he said, "Don't," he said in Afrikaans, "Moenie beweeg, daar's 'n baba onder jou kar." And I said, "What?" And he said, there's a baba under your car, on your bakkie. And I looked underneath, and there was this baby that had got blown out of the woman's hands, and right across the road. I hadn't even seen it. I'd been looking like this, and I just stopped. And it went under the bakkie, but luckily I didn't ride on it. But so that there was, I think, 37 people injured and killed in that blast, and one of them was the the wife of was this friend of ours. And funny enough, her husband remarried, and the children were the same age as my daughter, Megan, the eldest one, and they ended up going to school with her in Bedaarsdorp. The father came down, married another woman, and then they all ended up at school here together at the high school in Bedaarsdorp. So it's a small world.
Yeah, I remember one of our earlier guests, Sergeant Major RSM, James Tytger, well, one recce and then 95 recce. He lost his wife
Right.
in a bomb explosion like that. I'm not sure if it's the same one, but probably might be.
It might be.
Dreadful. He had to take care of his kids all alone until they left school.
Oh, terrible.
It just hard.
Horrible.
It's hard, man. But I want
Really, really hard to do.
I want to ask you, my grandfather on my mother's side was an alcoholic. He was also a police officer or something, and he probably served with the police brigades in the Second World War. I don't know the man because he died long before I was even born, which meant that my mother had a real serious trouble with alcohol, meaning that she really didn't like alcohol. My father would perhaps drink one beer or what. I've never seen my parents ever fight. I never seen my father in the influence. He just wasn't the type. Very distant man, same as he was. And I had a feeling he couldn't quite understand when he's in court and when he's not in court, because he would treat life like as if he's in court. Just my impressions. I'm sure my other siblings will tell different stories. But my mom used to say to me, especially when I joined the police, she would say, "Jy moet matigheid voor oë hou." And then she would say, it starts with one beer. Always remember that. It starts with one beer. Russel, is that true? Does it start with just one little dop of a mono, or does it go further?
Koos, I personally, my personal opinion, what I've read and what I understand from talking to a number of people is that no, it doesn't start with one beer, because there's people that can drink a beer, drink two beers, and then leave it lost completely. And I used to get cross when I see people drink a bottle of wine and leave a quarter of it. I could not understand why. How can you leave good wine behind? But they can do it. They can leave it. So I don't personally believe it just starts with one. I think people have the affliction and their DNA, the genetic makeup, that they can't leave it, because what is, you drink and your body the next day craves. That happened with me. The next day, I can drink today, I say to my wife, I drink nicely socially, but the next day, yeah, dan kry ek daai lus. Ek moet nog inkry, and that's what happens. But there's other people that can leave it. They can drink a little bit socially, dance, have a good time, and leave it. But I've got to watch my son as well. He said never, and he was always crosses. But I also see, I spoke to him the other day, because I see he could be falling into the trap. And I said to him, Bryce, you must be careful. You can fall into this trap easily, because you could be predisposed to it genetically from me. So I'm saying to you, just please be careful. Be careful. Be very aware of the fact. Never say never, but nooit never say never.
So how do you realize you've got a problem? Must it be very dramatic, like your wife leaving you? Or is there a time when you think to yourself, whoa, man, this thing is getting me up around here. This is not healthy.
Because with me, I went along drinking socially and drinking a lot socially, and then wanting to drink the next day. And then when I got a project right, or it was coming, I didn't. Funny enough, a lot of people drink when they're depressed, but I did not drink. When I was depressed, I actually honestly didn't want to drink, because it would make me more, and I would get myself in. But if things was going smoothly and I got things right, and I got a motor right, or made a nice table, or a gate or whatever, and it was going lekker, then I would say, hey, I deserve my drops now, and I'd drink. And then it got to the stage where you realize that it's all right for 12 o'clock in the day, and then but then you realize when you drink, one of the things is you can't just go out. You can't go out and go and drive around, go somewhere. So it starts limiting your. And then I started realizing that I had the problem then, because then I wanted to drink. I got to the stage where I was drinking in the morning. I started a project, and then I think, I'll just have one or two drops, just to because I'm working lekker now in my workshop now, and I'll just have one or two drops. Working with dangerous stuff too, cutting machines, and then Then I think the next day, what are you doing? And then yes, you could cut your hand, your wrist off, or whatever. And then a couple of days later, I think I'm on top, and then I'm very clever, getting very confident, and making a bugger up actually, because what happened is you feel so on such a lekker stadium that you start not completing your projects that you maybe promise somebody you're going to do. Then you start that nonsense, and that's bad. That starts getting bad, and then I realized when my children were getting disgusted with me, you're saying inappropriate things. When you are inebriated, you say inappropriate things to us and to people. And my wife was getting that I would try and sneak out to go to and then I started hiding liquor, or hiding in the garden. You'd be surprised. I mean, if you hear some of the stories of the group, we chuckle and laugh about it sometimes, but serious. Some of the places people hide drink in the toilet, in the system, in the bushes, I put whiskey into other jam jars and hidden it around, make it look like jam, so my wife can't get it, But just the other day, I was starting up at the back. I haven't had a drop for a year and 3 months now. It was over a year and 3 months. But the other day, I was starting up and there was an old. I used to hide booze all over the place. The other day, I found booze in a bush. I found booze in another place. And then the other day, an old grasvanger, for the goes on the lawnmower, was cleaning up at the back of the yard. I picked this thing up. There was a fuller bottle goeie whiskey. And die ding. Now he's like, yes. You know what this was to me? I thought, now I could, and this is the strength now that before this, and giving over the higher power, I would have opened it, and when my wife got home, I would have been drunk a 3/4 bottle of whiskey during the day already, and been lekker gaar. So this gave me immediately. What I did is I took a photograph of it. So I sent it to my wife, and I said, "Take what ek kry," and she says, "Where did you get that?" Immediately she's worried. She knows. Immediately she's worried. I said, "No, you don't." I said, "It's still sealed. I found it. I did another way," because she found stuff that was hidden before as well. She's very good at sniffing out my hidden stuff, my stash. She called it my stash. But I sent her a photograph, and then I took it and I put it in a bag, and I put it on a bed. So I locked the room, and then I went back to varnishing a cupboard that I was working on. So if it wasn't for the AA, having the strength, I might have fallen down again. Yeah, that's how kragtig it is. That's how powerful it is. Yeah.
I mean, there must be a lot of veterans out there who are struggling also with alcohol abuse, any abuse. Doesn't have to be alcohol, it might even be food.
Of course, it can be anything: food, drugs.
But
A bad thing is bad attitude, bad vibes to other people. And until you learn this is get rid of resentment. Try. It's hard sometimes because people do things that you resent. They make you cross, but you must try and get rid of resentment. If you can't talk, you can't come right, then just say, well, it's on them. If you made a mistake, you apologize. If they don't want to accept it. And the other big thing about alcoholism is there's a 12 step, but the most important one, because the most important one is you must make amends You must make amends for the people that you have hurt, the people you've offended and the people you've hurt. You'll know them all. They will tell it, or you will remember. Maybe you don't remember, but you, unless it's going to be the total detriment of a lot of things, you must. I've had to go, and people will tell you they have to go. First of all, to your wife and your family, you've got to basically get down in it and say, I want to make amends for my terrible, and my children, make amends. I've been ugly to my children, some said nasty things, behave badly, make amends and go to the person that you got cross with, make amends to your family, to other people, to any friend, to any people you did business with that you offended, anybody, to the garden where that you may be offended, you must make amends. You have to. It's one of the cornerstones is making amends. Yeah.
What happens at such meetings, at the AA meeting? If you walk in there the first time, what do they do with you?
The first time you walk in, of course, a good meeting, a good chair, they will greet you, they will make you feel welcome, and then you sit, and then they say to you, you don't talk at this meeting at all. For the first couple of meetings, you listen. You would listen. You must hear how it goes. And then they have the preamble of the AA, which is really good. It means give me the ability the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's saying, and then it goes through a bit of a litany, but it's not very long. And then they have a hospitality round where everybody can say how their week's going. Some people say, yeah, they're having a cuck week, and this one's, and their family's this, and they business-wise this down, and people get it out, and then that's hospitality round, and then the subject that he will talk himself on a bit, say like get rid of resentment or some subjects, and then everybody, you sit and think about it, and everybody can make a what do you call it, a comments, and the only or whatever, and then talk. You're not allowed to cross talk to somebody else. You must talk through the chairman. But it all goes very, very well. Of course, you have tea and coffee beforehand, and then you can have some tea and coffee after. And then often the newcomers, they say, who are the alcohol or the guys that's recovery or have been abstaining for a long time. Put up your hand. You prepare to help the new guy or the new woman, and then you put up your hand, and then after the meeting, they can come and talk to you one-on-one, and then you can give them your number. And so, because the best thing to do is, if you're getting into a predicament, is to be able to pick up the phone, go to a meeting immediately. There are lots of meetings in Cape Town, all over the place, or pick up the phone and just talk to them. You'll be amazed how many people have been saved by just picking up a phone and talking to someone, and the person says, "Hey, man, you can get through the don't just one day, just and you can do this, and just get down on your knees, pray to the Lord, and you'll feel that strength. And there's nothing better than being able to. I think one of the greatest feelings. Jy sal onthou daai ou gesegde in die weermag, jy kry daai warm gevoel in jou hol. You get that warm feeling in your backside. That's one of the greatest feelings when you can help somebody. Dis die beste gevoel when you can help somebody that's in a bad place. Ek sê jy, dis die beste gevoel jy sal ooit kry in jou lewe, better than any drug.
Does this cost money?
I think.
Do you have to pay
No.
for these sessions?
No, absolutely nothing. I only would like you just for the tea and cookie, and for you can put in 10 rand a meeting, or 20 rand or something like that. Just a token, Koos. It's just, but they're wonderful people. There's wonderful people there. Like I say, from all walks of life, doctors, doctors are often scared to because of their reputation of that, but they do come. Some of them are prepared to, and those are the greatest guys, the guys that think they have the most to lose. Maybe if they brave and get filled with the courage from, because you only get the courage from the big boss, from God, to be able to do that, to take your life in your hands and lay it all out and say. And I think he gets so happy when you've helped somebody. That's what I think the big experiment is to see how a person can help another person out of a bad place, whether it's drugs or whether it's person, just to give them hope. Net daai hoop dat jy kan dit uitmaak, jy kan beter lewe.
If someone's listening here and he's thinking to himself, I may have a problem, then he probably's got a problem. What now? What's the next step? What advice do you have?
Of course, I would say the best. My advice would be that the person should pick up the phone or go. You can Google. You can Google it. The best place to go to is to a meeting, and you will find that the people will you just go to a meeting. You can Google where your closest meeting is, and go as soon as you can. Don't leave it. Go as soon as you can. If you can climb in your car, go to one this afternoon if it's possible, or the next day before it gets, and go to them, and you will find that those guys will open their arms and they will take you in, and because you see, of course, the thing about an alcoholic is I verstaan. I can explain to, perhaps I don't want to exclude to you or to a doctor or another person that doesn't have a problem. Hy sal nie verstaan nie. Hy sal nie verstaan wat is die probleem of wat jy voel of hoe jy voel. But another alcoholic, papa, hy verstaan. Hy verstaan presies 100%, 110% waar jy is. Hy sal jy vra, wat are you drinking? Is it heel, is your family way? And they will help you. They will give you I'm not that good at it. I haven't been, but I hope to get even better and better. That people will know that it's a place that the AA I go to is a place that, and the thing is, you can only tell people about the opportunity. I don't go out and if I find somebody's battling, I say, yeah, there's an opportunity, but I don't try and force him to come. Or I've tried with one or two good friends that have problems with alcohol to come. A very good friend of my colleague, he's got a big problem with that, but he doesn't want to come. So I cannot force him. You have to go of your own free will. But once the alcoholic understands the alcoholic, hy verstaan.
But my last question here is, okay, then let's make it the reverse. What advice would you have for a wife who's listening here, or a child who's worried about dad or mom? What's the worst thing they can do? Is they start shouting at you or make you feel guilty?
No. Making you feel guilty or shouting is pointless, course. That is not going to help. But I believe the steps you should do is try talking to the person, get them when they're sober, try talking to them, say to them, here's an opportunity to go to AA, even if you have to book, even if you have to organize, so try and get them to go to AA. If that's not working, nobody should have to. I realize now nobody should have to live with an alcoholic and their destructive ways. So what my wife did eventually was the right thing. Then you have to get out of that. Unfortunately, but an alcoholic is going to financially ruin you. He's going to mentally ruin you, which I was busy doing. So it's like a tough love. Then you must leave the person. Whether you leave them permanently, you must separate from them. That they must go and they want to go drink in a room somewhere. Then that's their choice. You're not going to change an alcoholic by shouting or talking or You can go and my wife could take my booze, she can pour it out in front of me. I'll just go buy more. Ek sal net daar afstap. Drankwinkel toe, gaan koop. I will go and buy some more. And come back and drink it in front of her probably. I didn't like to drink it. I used to hide it away. I was a bit of a coward. But I mean, obviously at the parties, I'll drink it if I get inebriated, and then yeah, that's the best advice I can give. And your children, unfortunately, also tough love. Then you don't need to go back to a father or mother or a brother that is inebriated. You don't need to put up with that abuse. You don't need to put up with that mental, financial, and insanity. It's an insanity. Until that person can hit rock bottom and get a higher power, go to AA meeting. If he doesn't want it, it's horrible to say, but then he's never going to come right. And many people die horrible deaths, cirrhosis, because it leads to cirrhosis of the liver and a failed pancreatitis. All these horrible things where you just eventually your organs all collapse. The drink was killing me because it was affecting my health, my liver. I had high cholesterol from the whiskey gives you high cholesterol as well. I wasn't eating properly. As you drink, you will need to eat me. And look at me. I've gained. I gained about 9 kilos or something. So I'm trying to, but I'm walking. I didn't want to walk the dogs. I got totally lackluster. I walk the dogs every day. I met other people walking. A good friend now walking the dogs. I play bowls. I'm playing bowls. I'm doing my woodwork. Helping with the animals. Yeah, so I'm thriving now, and it's all because of God, my higher power, and the program. With any problem you got in life, because if you just believe, I think you know this. You know this. If you just, whatever trouble you're in, and no trouble can be more than being a drug or because you can't handle anything, but you can go through anything financial. If you just place your trust for today in God, and you will see. I sal you red. He will get you up. He'll pick you up. Net so. You'll feel that warmness.
And he will not drop you either.
He will not drop you either. Never. Not like some of our politicians and stuff.
Oh, we can talk a lot about them. I know Pak Botha had a seriously drinking problem. You talk to his police guards, and they will tell you stories of a man who should never have reached such positions. But anyway, I'm very glad we spoke about this subject because I think it is something, guys, you will know in your heart whether I'm speaking to you or not. If you have a problem, if it is so that something is stronger than you, probably from Satan, you need help. First, you need God in your life. Secondly, you need to go out and you speak to these AA people or whoever can help you and just go. You have to make that move. Guys, you can't, it's not going to happen by itself. You can't see Russel here, but he's nodding in the background. Is that true? Russel, it's not going to help by itself, right?
Never. You can never do it as a person. You need your higher power, God's help, and you need the fellow travelers in the group because they're all suffering with the same, and they know how to help you. They know how to help you. The guidance is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, because they've been through them all. They fully understand what you're going through. They've been there last week or the week before. And thank God somebody was there to assist and pick up and help. So what I'm trying to say to you people out there, guys, don't sit back in your room and start drinking further or think this is nonsense. It's going to go away. It will not go away. You have to do something. You have to stand up. You know, it's like being on parade and the sergeant or the officer shout for a volunteer, you know, one step forward. Or perhaps they're looking for the guy yesterday who did something which he shouldn't be doing. Nevertheless, it's one step forward. You have to make that move. We can't make that move for you. And I always invite you to come and speak to me, but Russell, I also want you to tell to your people at the AA group, if anybody from them wants to come and speak at Legacy and explain to us more on the assistance they can provide, please let them come. Let them come and speak to us. There's no shame in trying to assist yourself once you know you've got a problem. There is a lot of shame in my eyes, because you've got a problem and you're so hot-headed and not humble. You're so proud. Pride is from the devil. The Bible says so. Too much of it. Don't let that bloody thing rule your life. Come and let us speak about this. And so, as we say here at Legacy, I think 2 hours and some minutes later, until we meet again, God bless.
Sure. Chris, thank you very much for the opportunity.
What's the
And
placebo?
anybody, you can put my number, anybody can phone me and I will put them in contact and I will help them. Absolutely. Hulle moet net contact maak.
Right. We will put your number on here in the description, guys, please. And even if you have a friend who perhaps, you know he's suffering, go to him. Say to him, listen, call this guy. Perhaps he can help you. And then when you walk to him and you call Russell and you give a phone to him, you say, now you talk, I'm listening to you talking here. You have to do something. They call it intervention. So you have to do something, and you've got the chance now to do it. And once again, Russell, thank you. When we spoke beforehand and you said to me, Koos, I want to talk about this subject, I thought to myself, oh, what a brave man. What a brave man. And what an example for people to stand up to. Because, guys, this is happening. It's happening to us. It's not your fault. I don't want to point fingers. I mean, for me, it's like we grew up in very strange circumstances. To be honest with you, if you're our age and older, this is not normal, by the way. If you speak to someone like my wife who grew up in Chicago and she's like totally normal and she looks at South Africans, she says, wow, I'm so glad I wasn't growing up there. And I never realized that until she said it to me, because we're used to that. So don't let these people break you down or whatever. No, stop that. Remember that guy who was standing at uniform once, that proud young soldier, policeman, broad shoulders, very much in shape, going to conquer the world. That guy's still with you. He's still inside you. He just wants to come out again. Just remember that.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to receive notifications.